All right, so here is a video on how to write a linear equation from a graph. So I have taken some sample graphs from your IXL assignment today, and I wanted to walk you through two of them as a little bit of a reminder of how we do this. So remember, to start off, when you're going to write a linear equation, you're going to want to start with it in a y equals mx plus b form. And from here, the easy way to start with this is to focus on the b. And now if you remember, b, and I'll write this over here, b is the y-intercept, or in other words, the location on the y-axis where the graph crosses. And in this case, it's right here between negative 600 and negative 800, which would be negative 700. So I can go ahead and replace this b with a negative 700. Now I need to find the slope. And if you remember, m stands for slope. And remember, slope is rise over run. To find this, I need to pick two dots. And so usually it's easier to find dots that are close to the x-axis. And remember, your graph has to cross exactly at a point in order to count. So I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to use this one. So we need to find out, in order to get from this dot to this dot, how much do you have to rise, or in other words, go up? So technically, we're going to move up 2 squares, because now we're at the same level as the second dot. But if you notice, from here to here, it's actually not 2, it's 200. So for slope, I had to rise, I had to rise 200. Okay? Now that I rose 200, I need to run a certain amount, or move right or left. And in this case, from where I left off, I need to move 2 squares. But again, every square does not have a value of 1. In fact, in this case, every square has a value of 100. So if I fill in these blanks on the inside, that's a 5, and this would be 700, and this is 900. To get from this point to this point on the x-axis, I'm actually moving from 700 to 900. And to move from 700 to 900, and I can check real quick, 900 minus 700, that's a change of 200. So again, I'm going to go over here that I ran 200. Now, this one is nice and neat. I can actually simplify it. 200 divided by 200 is just 1. And so my slope is 1. Now that I've found the slope and the y-intercept, I can bring down my y, my equal sign, and my x. And we don't have to write 1x. If there's an x there, we know there's 1. And so my final would be y equals x minus 700. Not 7,000, 700. So this is the linear equation for this graph. I want to go ahead and do one more example. So here's another graph. And we're going to start off with the kind of same steps. So again, linear equation is y equals mx plus b. And if we remember, m stands for slope, which is rise. How much do you move up and down? Over run. How much do you need to move left to right? And in this case, b is the y-intercept. So it's always easier to start off with the y-intercept. Where does this graph cross the y-intercept? And in this case, it's at 0. So I can go ahead and replace b with a plus 0 for now. I'll get rid of it later because we don't actually need to write b. And then I need to find the slope. So again, it's always good to start as close to 0 as you can for math. And so because the line does cross through the point 0, 0, I can make this one of my points for finding slope. Then I'm going to go ahead and follow this line until it crosses at another point which would be right here. So now I need to find rise and run. So in this case, to get from this dot to this dot, I'm going to have to rise one box. But again, like the other one, a box does not have a value of 1. In this case, it's a value of 100. So I rose. Let's see, so for my rise, I went up 100. Now I need to see how far I would need to run. And in this case, I would have to run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks. But again, every block is not 1. In fact, it is 100 for each block, so 7 blocks would be 700. The only other thing we need to change here is that when lines are going up into the right, so in this direction, these are going to be a positive slope. And when they go up into the left, these are negative slopes. So in this case, this graph is going to have a negative. So it's actually negative 100 over 700. And we're going to need to simplify that. We can divide both 100 and 700. And so our slope, I'll change my color back, is negative 1/7. And I can go ahead and replace that over here with negative 1/7. Bring down my y and my equal sign and my x. And so my final answer, the equation for this graph is y equals negative 1/7 x. And I don't need to add this plus 0. If there's nothing there, you don't need to write it. So y equals negative 1/7. Hopefully this helps a little bit for your IXL assignment. If you have any questions, please let me know.